So, stop me if you heard this one before. One Punch Man is about an OP guy who defeats his enemies in, well, one punch. As true as the statement is, and as much as it is fitting for giving the old elevator pitch, it fails to grasp the appeal of the show, or more importantly, what it is trying to say and why what it says resonates with so many people. Because although Saitama tends to beat his foes in one punch, there is still a combination of things that the show's got going for it beyond being a one-time fun pun under the sun. So today we'll be taking a voyage into at least one of these main parts that make up One Punch Man's appeal, and that is Saitama's fights, and why I like to say they are akin to a one-sided argument, as well as take a stab at how he even got his insane powers in the first place. And let me tell you now, where we are going with this theory, you'll need to take the red pill and see just how far the rabbit hole really goes. Now I'm mainly going to go off the first season of the anime, as well as a few bits and bobs from both the original manga created by One himself. Some of the redrawn version done by the legendary manga artist Yusuke Motora will also be taken into consideration, so take what I say as my biased viewpoint, fueled by the exposure I've currently gotten with this show. You got all that? Good. Well, for your sake, if you do happen to be on the elevator whilst watching this, then wait, how are you even doing that? And also, I hope there's a long ride down because we're about to go deep. So, before I even tackle my point on one-sided argument, let me first clear up what argument means in this context. In a narrative, any good fight worth its salt besides the clash itself, there tends to be a subtext laid within all the kicking and punching, giving the clash more meaning than two dudes just throwing down. Take any memorable fight and break it down to its narrative reasoning, whether that reason is as simple as one guy doesn't like the look of another guy's smug face, all the way up to an opposing clash of ideals or walks of life, causing all forms of discourse to dissolve into a full-on slugfest. This tends to happen in all story-driven media, but in anime and especially in shonen shows, more emphasis is normally put on the fighting being the great core that these characters express and confront their big problems with, and so conflicts with any major ideals tend to be centered and resolved around fighting. As such, two combatants are not so much slugging each other with their fists than they are challenging another's ideals and beliefs through them. This literal clash of ideals essentially becomes, in a lot of ways, the argument that the fight is dressed up in, with points being taken on the chin or countered. A physical back and forth is afoot until they either reach a stalemate or one of them emerges victorious. Don't believe me? Then let me give you an example. Just a tiny little show I'm sure none of you have ever heard of before called Naruto, because you know I do my research and I do this for the little guy, so what makes Naruto so compelling is how it both ties in its characters' powers and skills with their sense of resolve and ideal without coming off as arse-pretty, most of the time. Take Naruto's battle against Neji. I won't go into too much detail here, but in the start of the battle, both of them already came in with clashing ideals. One's belief in fate being something you are born into, and another's belief that with enough grit and hard work, you can change your own destiny. Both compelling arguments in their own right, but both sides of the coin can keep individuals arguing for or against such notions of fate, and the two of them do argue about this. The true leeway they make in any stage of the argument is when they exchange blows and shift the tides to or against themselves in the fight. Sure, a lot of shows do it, but Naruto I feel really goes out its way to make sure that this point is run home to the viewers. When it comes to battle and understanding another, this is one ironclad truth on how the world of Naruto works.
知ってるか、ナルト。一流の忍び同士なら、拳を一度交えただけで、互いの心の内が読めちまう。口には出さなくても。
So what happens at the end of their battle? Naruto beats Neji, and through that loss, Neji acknowledged Naruto's perception of fate. Thus, by winning the battle, he also won the argument. So now that I've broken down the meaning behind a good battle, I hope that you now better see the subtext behind how some battles can look as simple as this, and still be impactful, whilst others can look at this and still somehow put you to sleep. It's the reason why anime with some of the best fight choreography ever can be a total snooze fest, and why something as simple as All Might trying really hard to punch another dude really hard can still be some of the most hyper stuff to come out of the media in recent memory. It's the clash of ideals that gives the fight its soul and gains the viewer's interest and investment. If the argument is why the clash means anything, then the fight itself is how you go about resolving said argument. And in them few cases where one who truly is right suffers a loss, or you know, if they're just the main character, this tends to mean that their loss in battle was in part because they did not come up with a compelling enough answer to counter or quell their opponent's argument. And also, before I forget, can we just acknowledge that as cool as these fights are, yeah, and really some of them are really good, yeah, they can talk about the most deepest of themes whilst landing the 100 hit Shoryuken combo. Like, what the frig? Like, what the, how? Like, I know how, but like I'm reading subs, I'm trying to watch what's going on, I want to see the action, I like to see the details, but then I have to read this deep philosophy of the universe and the world whilst they're landing this stupendous attack. Like, pause. Now, bring this back to One Punch Man. I feel that what makes its battle so compelling in a funny sense half the time is because instead of being a back and forth battle of punches and kicks masquerading as an argument, it barely is even an argument. Or better put, it is an argument, but the conflict itself is all coming from Saitama's opponent instead of Saitama himself. 9 times out of 10, Saitama wins, not so much because he has a counterpoint to their argument, but rather he was never even in the ballpark to even hold onto their subject matter as an argument in the first place. Take the verse villain we get to see a few seconds into the show, who's aptly named Vaccine Man. Now his argument is that humans are destroying the planet, and as such they are to the like of germs, or a sickness to the earth itself that needs to be cleansed. A very compelling, if not extreme, argument that is a good fit for someone playing a villain. Such an argument in real life can and has been made as a whole debate, with both sides aptly voting for or against this notion.
Air quality isn't fucking improving!
There are likely many books, movies and documentations about our neglect of the Earth's natural planet life and resources. Books that can and have made this the backbone of their story's ultimate and underlining message. An argument becoming the main pulling force or inciting incident for the protagonist to embark on their hero's journey. Their argument is extreme and compelling, and as such a villain would not be someone to simply sniff at if confronted head on with your ideals on the subject. So, what does Saitama do when he confronts such a powerful force?
Yeah, what can be expected from a hero?
He defeats him in one blow. Subtext wise, however, he did not just defeat Vaccine Man's argument with a counterpoint, rather he defeats him by simply seeing his point but not caring enough to even have a compelling input to add. And so here he was, monologuing.
He starts monologuing
About how him being a hero for fun was a bad joke, about how deep and serious his motives were, about how he will soon cure the world. And Saitama was not only disinterested on what he said about his hobbies, he did not even batter an eyebrow on this deep matter he was willing to wipe the whole of humanity. By sheer virtue of hearing but not having interest to care about Vaccine Man's worldview, he indirectly belittles it into a subject that he can just brush off. And in a show that is a parody of shonen tropes, that brushing off of his argument is turned into a sudden and anticlimactic punch. Because honestly, what's more disheartening to a fired up and passionate individual who's ready to fight their corner to the bitter end about their deep and life-defining points than to refute it in the most flat and indifferent way possible.
Bam, bop, bada bop, boom, pow.
That is the main point of Saitama's character in a nutshell. It's not so much a parody of shonen than it is showing the meaninglessness of putting so much stock into such lofty ideals, at least to a point where you become a problem to others. Now, with this bit out of the way, I would like to throw a theory out there about how Saitama has come in possession of such overwhelming power. Unfortunately, that's going to be another part because I have made this way too long. So yeah, script's there, just need editing. Do it straight after this one. Yeah, hint, I kind of touched upon it in the beginning of the video, something to do with red pills and blue pills. Anyways, don't forget, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and until then, I see you on the next voyage.